And welcome back, everyone, to the Steve Finnegan Show here on the last day of April, the 30th, Thursday. So, Jay, I don't know if you were getting a chance to listen in, but first, welcome to the show. But we were talking about the Supreme Court decision yesterday.
Yeah, I heard a bit of that and, was able to follow it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't know why we should expect anything different, but a lot of these arguments we're hearing from the left are just so hypocritical when you look at those percentages you were pointing out from different states. The thing that stands out to me, and this is pervasive in a lot of the things we see here in Arkansas, is the left a lot of times wants to boil people down into these racial characteristics and say that's the only thing that matters about a person, and then draw the districts based on that line. And we know people are a lot more complex than that. And so yeah, I've been following the news, and it's going to be really important, I think, moving forward. I
do too, and I went through the states, and then one of the intrepid listeners just reminded me that look what the Democrats and Democrat communists try to do in Virginia, and ladies and gentlemen, that's absolutely right. They tried, but the courts failed. And it looks like the Virginia Supreme Court, they already upheld the circuit court judge in Virginia's ruling that they can't certify that election. So that'll be interesting. But something, Jay, what I just thought of? Here's some more hypocrisy out of the Democrat communists. They had an opportunity to elect the first African-American woman, Winston Sears, who was already the sitting lieutenant governor, as governor, but they elected the white communist Abigail Spamberger, or Scamberger as I call her, instead. So, there you go.
You hit it. Anything any means to justify the end.
Yes. Like Hakeem Jeffries said, it's a war, and I tell them you got to take these Democrats seriously. Now, several things. We wanted to talk about the Opportunity Arkansas is going back with in partnership with some other conservative groups to educate and inform Arkansas about a recycled attack on the state constitution that failed once. And so we'll get into that. But any quick thoughts you want to share about the fiscal session? And I might as well announce this now. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders signed the proclamation today calling for a special session of the Arkansas legislature next week, and I'll give you the details, but the special session is supposed to convene at 3 p.m. on Monday. So, Jay, thoughts on the fiscal session?
Yeah, that's right. So fiscal session wrapped up this week. Handful of headlines. The top line for taxpayers, as you mentioned, the budget allow the governor to call a special session for next week, where we're going to see some more income tax reductions. We're hearing that it's likely to be 0.2 reduction in the personal income tax rate, and that would be retroactive for this year, is what we're hearing, which means that everybody, will get a bigger refund basically on your taxes paid this year. We also saw some property tax relief in the session with the homestead tax credit. The big news for us was really on education freedom. There was a lot of bluster from folks who are opposed to education freedom about how they were going to try to stop this, and we saw some bills introduced to try and limit education freedom. But ultimately, we saw that funding passed without an issue. There wasn't even much of a debate around it. And I think it's really great news for Arkansas parents, and it reflects the reality that we've been talking about a lot, which is this program is working, and it is extremely popular among Arkansas families. And so we were really glad to see that, glad to see the governor support full funding and sign that into law. And we're looking forward to seeing some tax relief starting next week with the special session as well.
Yes, I actually had two state senators together from up in Northwest Arkansas, Senators Justin Boyd and Senator Brad Simon, come on the show. And we talked about that, and they were very pleased, both of them, to have supported that and protect parents' rights to make the best decisions for their own children. So I was
Absolutely.
glad. glad to see that. So we have to stay diligent. Now, Jay, it does not surprise me, first of all, that the left is going to try to do this, but why don't you give the listeners an update of this proposed constitutional amendment that is going to probably cost us millions. They'll be raising taxes if this ever got passed, with all the welfare that's going into it and destruction of religious liberty when it comes to education. So tell us a little bit about this recycled attack that they're going to try once again.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we want to sound the alarm about to make sure people understand. So this is called the Educational Rights Amendment. Sounds nice enough on its face. As we know, you can't judge a piece of law by the title. What this would essentially do, they're out gathering signatures for this right now. They tried to do this a couple years ago. It would basically put a blank check in our state constitution, create multiple massive new welfare programs with no cost limit, and mandate it be fully funded with no way to fund it in the state constitution. It would blow a huge hole in the state budget. There's all sorts of problems, and they're pitching this on the basis of, well, it's all about accountability and improving public education. The real intent is to end education freedom in Arkansas, cement these welfare programs in the state constitution. There's all sorts of issues with this. And so Opportunity Arkansas, we made an announcement this week that we're launching a campaign to educate Arkansans about what this would actually do. Because, shocker, when you're getting asked to sign this by someone at the farmer's market or at the festival, they're not going to tell you all this. They're just going to say, well, it helps provide accountability and equal standards. And so we want to make sure people understand the truth about the real impacts this would have. And that's the announcement this week. And there's a ton in here. So that's the main thing people need to take away. I would encourage folks to check out our social media, Opportunity Arkansas. We're going to be rolling out more information about this. But there's just a lot to unpack about how dangerous this would be for the state of Arkansas.
It is absolutely dangerous indeed. Now, what is some of the welfare in all this unfunded, and where are they going to come up with the funding that expand upon that a little?
Well, it's a good question, and the people that wrote the amendment can't tell you. They've been peddling this idea for several years now and have yet to produce a cost estimate. The only thing they've said is that it would cost less than $8 billion. For context, that's larger than the entire budget that Arkansas just approved.
What was it, $6.7 billion is what our current budget for the whole state?
That's right. And so their proposal would basically put universal pre-K for every person, universal after-school government-mandated programs, a new general cash welfare program for people that make up to $100,000 a year. It would put all these in the state constitution with no mechanism to pay for it. Now, what that means is that if it passed, the legislature would be required by law to fund these things, and they would have to come up with the money. And the people proposing it have not explained how it would be paid for. And so what it would mean, Steve, is that we can say goodbye to tax cuts. We would almost certainly have to see tax increases to fund these programs. So it would be disastrous for the state budget and for taxpayers. And it's just really astounding to think that these folks are asking Arkansans to sign this and put it in the Constitution without even giving us a price tag on what it would cost and no way to pay for it. And if you noticed, a lot of these are the things we're hearing from Mom Donnie in New York. It's basically that style handout they want to bring to Arkansas.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We don't need the insane stuff from other states. They should be copying our LEARNS Act for their own citizens for sure. But Jay, it's come up on. I just texted you. I don't know if you got it. I wasn't sure if you're going to be with us for both segments. Are you going to be here for both?
Yeah, happy to stick around.
Okay, perfect. So Jay's going to be back. We're almost at the traffic, but before we go to traffic, ladies and gentlemen, the NBA playoffs are here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, brings excitement to every game day, the whole postseason. When the lights get the brightest, the best players in the world show you exactly who they are. Playoff stars turn it up round by round, and DraftKings turns it up with them from the first round all the way to the finals. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code KARN so you're ready for the moment. That's code KARN. Turn $5 into $100 in bonus bets instantly in partnership with DraftKings. The crown is yours. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call or text 1-800-522-4700. Must be 21 or older to play here in Arkansas. Eligibility and restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, please see dkng.co/audio. This is a limited time offer. All right, folks, we'll be back with Jay after the traffic. And welcome back, everyone, to the Steve Finnegan Show with my guest and my good friend, Jay Robertson. I got 2 text messages that just came in back to back for you. So the first one was from one of our female listeners that want to know how your son is doing now. Oops, hold on,
Jay,
folks. Sorry about that, Jay. I forgot to flip you onto the air. So let's start over again.
Yeah, the little guy's doing great. He's smiling a lot, and he's starting to sleep a little more. I think we got almost 6 or 7 hours a couple nights ago. So no complaints here. Things are going well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. And before we get back to the so far, the other texts are people are very wanting to know more about this amendment so they can decline to sign and vote against it, God forbid, if it should pass. But there is one other question that deviates just slightly from that. And listener texts in, she believes that education needs 100% restructuring, I guess, to be better efficient with the taxpayers' dollars. She said, I think they spend too much for recreation and sports. And she said, we need to bring back some more vocational programs like we had in the 80s with auto mechanic, welder, machinist, auto body shop classes. And I agree with her on that. I mean, not everybody is set to go to college.
That's absolutely right. And I think, Arkansas has made some progress on creating more of those pathways. I think ultimately one of the reasons we talk so much about education freedom and the reason that we go back to that so much is that for the first time ever, it's introducing competition and choice into a system that never had it before. And so there are a lot of things we can do at the state level to improve public education, and we should. But ultimately, giving parents that option allows them to vote with their feet, and it allows local schools, public and private, to offer whatever works best for their kids. Because to your point, some kids are college bound, some are bound to go to the workforce, and public schools can offer some of that, but sometimes you need something different, and that's why education freedom is really so important, because we need more different options for every kid.
Yes, and I knew I wasn't ready for college, but I made the choice to go into the Army instead, and then came back and did school afterwards. And I was a little bit more mature and older at that point and ready to get done. But, there's a lot of jobs that like plumbers and welders, carpenters, roofers. I mean, any of these professions, and they are professions, you have to know how to manage budgets to build the house, and or the other jobs, or to order the right amount of plumbing supplies, what to charge your customers for labor. There's a lot that goes into this. So I think that's a great thing. And, when you need a plumber, Jay, you need a plumber.
Absolutely right. There's not a replacement for that. And it's a great point because, I know when I was in school, I spent a lot of time learning geometry and trigonometry, and not that there's not some value in some of those things, but man, it would have been really nice if I'd learned how to set a household budget or set a budget for a business if I wanted to open a business, some of those practical skills. And ultimately, education freedom allows for that because we can have micro schools that are set up to help people, kids have apprenticeships and things like that. Like there's just so much we can do when we have education freedom. And, one of the reasons that we're talking so much about this proposed amendment is it would take all that away. And so I think it's really the mechanism we can use to ensure that every kid is getting exactly what they need, no matter where they go in life. But that's the thing we want to do, is make sure they're prepared for whatever that next step is.
Yeah. And you sit here and think about it, you need good mechanics, and they have to know computers now, because half the cars are, I think all the cars just about on the road now have some kind of computerized technology, unless you're going back to the 60s and 70s with a classic car or a little older. But the vast majority of vehicles on the road today need all that. Just last summer, I had to have an oil pump and a computer module replaced on my car, and it cost me $6,000. I was not the happiest of campers over that, for sure. But you need your car.
Sure.
So, all right, let's get back now into the amendment, and I'm greatly concerned about this and the welfare and the unfunded mandates that are going to force the legislature into raising taxes instead of cutting taxes. But tell us more about the attack on the religious liberties in this.
Yeah, this is something that's really concerning, and it should be for any and all people of faith. So the great thing about education freedom is right now parents can use the EFA program to go to a religious school of their choice, so that their kids can be taught along with the values that align with their own values. The Supreme Court's been pretty clear that the state can't stop programs like this from allowing parents to choose Christian education. Mm-hmm. This amendment is trying to undo that. It is a backdoor attack on religious freedom. What it would say basically is that every school in Arkansas has to teach the same standards from public schools, which would basically say you can either drop teaching Christianity and faith-based education, or you can stop serving these families that depend on these scholarships to go to your school. It is a backdoor way to try and attack faith-based education in Arkansas, and it basically would force schools to choose: either violate your religious beliefs and teach what the government tells you to teach, or say that you can no longer serve students that are using these scholarships to attend your school. It's really concerning, and it's pretty clear that this was the attempt. Attorney General Tim Griffin actually provided guidance on this amendment a couple of years ago to say this would pretty clearly violate religious freedom, and the drafters proceeded anyway, which tells us that they know exactly what this would do, and they're pushing forward with it. So every Arkansan needs to understand what the real intent is here.
Yes, and that's important. And I know our Attorney General will stay on top of this, too, and make sure that they're honest in the way they word this. I mean, just going back real quickly to Virginia, and that was one of the two things that was contested. The other was the Constitution says you can't do this type of an amendment until after an election passed, and they were trying to pull a fast one on that. But the phraseology of the way it was worded was very confusing, and still enough people. And then the Democrats actually put up a billboard in Virginia that said President Trump was supporting this ridiculous amendment, which, of course, was a bold-faced lie.
Yeah, and, we're going to have a lot more to share about this. There's just so much. There's no way we can cover it all on one show. But people also need to understand who's pushing this. It's the radical left National Teachers Union that is funding this campaign. The same folks who are fighting Trump, who are having anti-ICE protests, they wrote a $60,000 check to this exact effort. So people need to understand who's behind this and what they actually want to do, which is basically put these new welfare programs in the state constitution, bring the Mamdani-style handouts to Arkansas, and basically attack religious freedom and end education freedom in Arkansas completely.
Yeah, we cannot allow that to happen, Jay, for sure. And anyway, we have to fight the teachers' unions. There was once a time, and I want to make clear, I know I can speak for myself, and I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for Jay on this and saying we're not attacking teachers as a group. There are some very, very dedicated, hardworking teachers that aren't happy with some of the stuff the unions are doing either, and that's for sure, especially the anti-religious stuff.
Absolutely. And so, that's another reason that we're talking about this. When you hear the Arkansas Education Association, that sounds great. My mom was a public school teacher. We support teachers.
Yes.
But the people who are calling the shots are the radical leftists, and Arkansans need to understand that.
Yes, sir. Well, we have come to the end of the segment, Jay. As always, it's great having you on. I'll look forward to next week.
All right. Thank you, Steve. Talk to you then.
Back after the news, y'all.